Well, all righty then. The news is out. From the download to now you can download KD, Kendall Daniels, a.k.a. The Predator, has made the biggest move of the offseason, leaving QBs, RBs, and OCs all praying he just hits the wrong hole.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State. Today, we're partially brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use a code for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Make sure you go get that today to get your best seat in the house to watch Oklahoma State Cowboy football and Kendall Daniels. Yes, we have tried to drop little nuggets about, him being closer to the line and potentially being in on some more blitz packages this year, but it's out, right? What was supposed to be on the down low until after the season has started has now been put out for America to share. Kendall Daniels not only is a linebacker, but he's exclusively been playing linebacker for well over a month and a half now, which means he hasn't needed to take any snaps at safety for a decent amount of time. It is what it is. Trying to keep something on the hush-hush, but this is kind of the conundrum with this job, right? You try to keep things on the hush-hush so that way you keep your level of access just to have things like this happen, which means, I don't know, more and more, maybe we shouldn't hang on to information if we know that other people are going to finagle their way around putting it out too early any daggone ways. So here it is. Partially due to the fact that I think Justin Wright's rehab process has gone a little bit slower than originally thought. I definitely think the fact that he's gone from 205 pounds when getting on campus to 242 pounds now, that has a hand in it. And then the biggest thing is this is what NFL scouts wanted to see out of Kendall Daniels. This is going to be the natural progression for him moving forward. You see a decent amount of the bigger safeties that are very productive in college do in fact get moved kind of a little bit closer to the line. We've alluded to it, right? Having some different packages, having some different rotational capabilities. But what this does do is let everybody know this is official. So now South Dakota State, go ahead and prepare for Kendall Daniels playing linebacker because the dude is in the news as he should be. Kendall Daniels last season did get burnt every now and again in coverage. I think the live show, even Reagan mentioned, or Trent, that, it's not a matter of whether he can do it. It was almost a matter of he didn't like doing it. I don't want to jump out and say that he gave up on plays, but there are times on film where it looks like maybe Kendall Daniels could have caught the dude, but maybe not. Now it's not going to matter as much because he's going to be able to put his head down and go to work. I think another reason that this was designed to be kept under wraps for quite some time is the fact that the transition hasn't necessarily been the smoothest thing in the world either. There are still a decent amount of times where Kendall Daniels' eye discipline gets him in the wrong gap in the wrong hole at the wrong time, which leaves the running back more room to make moves. And when you have somebody like Ollie Gordon, it doesn't take a lot of daylight for him to find a jump cut. So it really is good preparation for Kendall Daniels going up against somebody like an Ollie Gordon and even a Trent Howland, Sessi Velahi, because it prepares him for the rest of the season. Because there are going to be some running backs in the Big 12 that aren't as good as Ollie Gordon, but really daggone close. The Big 12 controls the country at the running back position. I mean, you look at all of the returning guys, yards per game. The Big 12 between Todd Brooks and R.J. Harvey and Devin Neal and Ollie Gordon, there's going to be a plethora of dudes in this league that we're watching on Sundays here very, very quickly. So although Kendall Daniels' eye discipline has been a little bit problematic thus far, I think some of that, is a boost to our running back room. This is a problem, though, for coaches. If Kendall Daniels can get to a point where he understands what he's doing at the linebacker position very early on, he's going to be a nightmare. I see this somewhat reminiscent of Colin Oliver last year, going from defensive end to linebacker, something that, he had some familiarity with at Edmond Santa Fe, but it's not like, especially at this level, he was extremely used to it. So we watched Colin Oliver the first half of the season, I guess you could say, get his feet wet and understand the position and how to utilize, the communication to his advantage and getting the right spacing. He was able to take a decent amount of that last season and now transition it to where he has a significant amount of weight gain to him. He's going to be up in the box and he's going to be stopping the run. Guys, he's still running a high 4.5 40. So the 40 time he was running at 205 pounds is virtually the same 40 time he's running at almost 245 pounds. This is also going to allow some of the guys at safety to get a little bit more work, whether that be Cam Epps or Lyric Rawls. Guys, I think Lyric's going to have a very, very big season, just like I think Kobe Hilton is going to have a lot of opportunities, somewhat due to Trey Rucker having a little bit of a lingering injury as well. You guys let me know down in the comments section what you about this news, right? Have you been hearing enough of the nuggets to kind of piece this thing together? Maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe there's been enough little breadcrumbs here and there that it needed to come out now. It's going to be a breath of fresh air for everybody in Cowboy country, because the reason Kendall Daniels was an All-American, he would fly around. Mistakes, of course, but he would do it at 115 miles an hour. Reckless abandon is what we like to see. We didn't see all that last year. Daniels had to do a lot more thinking, a lot more communication, and switching guys and telling guys to move. And this year, it's going to be much more simplistic for him, right? We're going back to the KISS method for somebody like Kendall Daniels. When you have this much talent, athleticism, speed, and the ability on the defensive line to hockey shuffle through a lineup, I think this does add another dimension to this defense. We were somewhat susceptible in the back end. We were very susceptible in the back end last season. I think the numbers were a little bit deceptive, especially if you look at Brian Nardo in some of the fourth quarters that we were able to hang on to big-time W's. But I think this does allow us to see the emphasis on stopping the run and being more physical this season. I think that we're going to be so aggressive up front that we are going to give up some shots deep, right? But I think the feast or famine, we're going to feast far more than famine. So this makes sense to me. This is a big-time move. It's been fun. Seeing Kendall Daniels creeping up there and being literally right next to Nick Martin, it's really cool to see. And then we've got some other guys at linebacker like Jeff Robertson that I think are going to be playing integral parts in this season as well, partially due to somebody like a Kendall Daniels. Like Gunnar Wilson is being able to learn so much right now from not only Kendall, but also from Nick and Justin on how to utilize everything that Brian Nardo is going to give you in this system, because there's a lot to work with, just like there's a lot to work with in the future, as long as we can keep everybody intact and everybody to some degree happy. We'll see how it goes. I mean, happiness can be defined in so many different ways, but you can find happiness with Game Time tickets. Guys, the travel to the events and the hotels and the airlines and all that, it's so stressful. Take the stress and the guesswork out of you buying tickets. Game Time is the authorized marketplace for Major League Baseball and college football, of course, which makes you getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to the event, even after the first pitch, tip-off, or kickoff has already started, up to an hour after. The deals are the best. With last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find, easy to buy tickets for every event in your area, it's a no-brainer to get squared away with Game Time. The last-minute deals allow you to save up to 60% off of buying tickets for last-minute events, sports, concerts, music, theater. The seat view, it's panoramic, so you know precisely what you're getting before you get there. And the lowest price guarantee means at Game Time that you back 100% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of you buying Major League Baseball tickets or Cowboy and Cowgirl tickets by downloading the Game Time app today. Create an account and use that code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What is not guaranteed for the Cowboys is future success, but it appears as though that we're in a good position. Of course, the depth that we have at the quarterback room is something that we've never had before. But last night on the live, it did get brought up, or it was mentioned, right, in regards to how many coaches we're going to be able to retain after the season is over, right? If we win the Big 12 title and make the CFP, like I believe that we will, and a lot of you believe that we will, what happens with the coaching staff and the continuity then? The fact that Oklahoma State has so many guys on staff that have been there for an average of a decade, up to 14 years, in some cases 19 years, in other cases 29 years, that's the coaching staff at Oklahoma State. Most of everybody was going to come back alongside all of these, redshirt seniors to make what is to be the most epic run in Oklahoma State history, likely, as long as we don't fall on our face and completely screw the pooch. This is the year of all years. The players know that, which is why more or less they all return, and I think the coaches know that as well. Guys, I do not like Casey Dunn as offensive coordinator. I think that he's a complete gallon of weak sauce, all right, that, tucks his tail between his legs instead of calling an offense. But outside of Casey Dunn, this staff, I think, is the reason that the recruiting has been able to get a better name, at least out in the coaching world. I think we're making a lot more top threes and top fives than in recent memory, partially due to this, especially in this new NIL transfer market era. A lot of these schools do not have security and consistency, which is why I really thought we would end up with the Shobles, both of them. Right. I know that's something that John Schobel was very interested in going through the recruiting process. Obviously, Adam Schobel viewed Oklahoma State in that tiering system that can get you to the next level. I understand the multiple 3-time legacy thing they have going. So it is what it is. But perception, right, needs to continue to tick up for Oklahoma State. And the perception is we have several quarterbacks, but we don't have an elite quarterback. Unless you talk to Oklahoma State fan base, most everybody is extremely excited about Zane Flores, and we should be, right? Especially if you've been seeing some of the clips. The ball does jump out of his hand at a little bit of a different pace. I think Mailwake Smith coming in naturally can do a little bit of what Zane could do last season, but he's a little bit taller. So whenever he gets divided by glass, what his frame ends up being is going to be Wilson, right? We've talked about him multiple times, so I'm not gonna harm. Not your run-of-the-mill standard walk-on quarterback, nor does he get treated like one because he doesn't act or play like one. We're fine at the quarterback spot, but we won't be fine if Tim Rattay leaves. Guys, Garrett Rangel came back this season, of course, because he loves the team, wants to be a part of this Big 12 title run, wants to get, the jewelry, go to the CFP, be a part of this team no matter what they need and ask from him. Also, it's because he's good. If he's good enough to be throwing balls to Dallas Cowboys and other NFL dudes over the offseason, and then those NFL dudes legitimately coming out and saying we do a lot of these sessions. Sometimes we have random quarterbacks show up. Garrett Rangel is not a random quarterback that just shows up. He's somebody that can legitimately drop dimes to Jalen Tolbert. He's somebody that can legitimately drop dimes to other Dallas Cowboys in front of Dak Prescott and other NFL dudes. So we sit good with Garrett Rangel, just like everybody's insanely excited about Zane Flores in the future, as we should be. I think we should be excited about him doing some packaging this season as well, whether it be Wildcat or whatever. And then, the broad scheme of things, Alan Bowman has not had 2 full seasons where he's gone completely healthy. Fingers crossed. We all want Bowman to continue to show us the maturation process that he had shown in the spring throughout the course of the season. If that happens, we accomplish all of the goals that we have set forth from a fan base perspective, the goals that we have set forth. Big 12 title game, CFP. Thankfully, we're all on the same page here. But if we lose, what happens then? Right? Because he was the one of the primary reasons, if not the primary reason above faith or other than faith, that Garrett Rangel is still here. That Zane Flores decided to come and stay with Oklahoma State, even though Matt Rule and Nebraska came at him very, very heavy. Not to mention, with his athletic prowess, He was a sought-after commodity this offseason again, too, as was Garrett Rangel. And Alan Bowman getting this additional year and having this maturation process right before our very eyes for this huge season, in large part because of Tim Rattay. So if Benny Tonga goes, our recruiting on the West Coast takes a massive dip, right? I think it's probably fair. If John Wozniak goes, there's a good likelihood that we don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 NFL running backs. If Tim Rattay leaves, do we have four-star quarterback committing to Oklahoma State? Probably not. So as much as we should all be excited about this season and this team, make sure that show some love to Wozniak. Right? Trent mentioned it last night. He doesn't get talked about enough. But if you go back and look at some of the 4-star running backs that have committed to Oklahoma State, whether they end up staying here or not, he's grabbed a couple of them, right? He was the dude that helped Rob Glass get Jalen Warren to a completely different level. Guys, Jalen Warren has come out and said multiple times, without Rob Glass, without Wozniak, he would not have even touched the NFL. Utah State is a good place, good program, but they were not getting him ready for the NFL at the degree that we were able to do with Wozniak and Glass. So if you lose Wozniak and you lose Rattay, then a lot of this conversation about Oklahoma State consistently and constantly being in the Big 12 title game and constantly playing for a spot in the CFP, that could all change very dramatically if you lose Benny Tonga or John Wozniak or Tim Rattay or Tim Duffy or Dan Hammerschmidt. Guys, these specialty position style of coaches don't get talked about enough. And the kicker is, after we have all this success, some of these dudes are likely to be swooped up. So, I mean, some of these guys have already turned down several opportunities to stay at Oklahoma State. But the difference in getting an opportunity as a quarterback coach or an offensive coordinator. There's a difference in being, an assistant style of coach to being the head man. So the patience of Joe Bob Clements and Duffy and Hammer and even Wozniak have been groundbreaking. I mean, guys, could you imagine? I mean, Charlie D. Gold, his first few years on the sidelines of Stillwater. Obviously, that's because we were asking him to put a square peg in a round hole. When we said, all right, dude, take your O-line, do whatever you need to do because we're just going to hand it off to this dude back here a whole bunch. That's Charlie Dickey's cup of taters. That's what he did in Manhattan. But if we were to lose Charlie Dickey, who is likely to get, an offensive coordinator style of offer at some point in time, just like John Wozniak is going to be elevated by someone somewhere at some point in time. It is amazing to think about the continuity on the roster and Mike Gundy having such a massive hand in that because of the diving back in last season. But it's also scary to think about, if we have the season we should, what that equals for the coaching staff. I just don't see any way we can hold on to all of these dudes if we have a 12-win season. That's my biggest concern right now. It's not the depth at running back. It's not the health of a couple dudes. It's not the fact that we have a few players with COVID. It's the fact that after this season's over, whatever NIL money that we want to have designated for players should probably maybe go to the coaches. Now, I know that everybody, literally everybody, just got a minimum of a 2-year extension and a raise. But you're talking $125,000 raise, right? $100,000 raise, $75,000 raise. If you become an offensive coordinator, you could be getting a $1.1 million raise, an $850,000 raise. If you were to be named the head coach at a smaller school, again, another $1.1 million raise. Not that money is everything. I think that being somewhere to build something up is a very good example you can find in Stillwater, but it's inevitable that these guys are going to get bigger opportunities. I mean, just a couple of years back, supposedly North Texas was flirting with hiring Casey Dunn as the head coach. They didn't do it, though. I mean, guys, as much flack as we're going to give Casey Dunn for being a coordinator, he's still a phenomenal wide receiver coach, and I would imagine still a very, very good wide receiver guy in the recruiting realm as well, to be able to, lure guys into coming to Oklahoma State. Maybe not like Coach Wozniak, right? Because somebody who doesn't get enough credit for last season because of injury is DeAndre Jackson. And DeAndre Jackson, came over from Texas A&M primarily because of John Wozniak. And then he was the guy alongside Xavier Benson to get the locker room back in order last year. Not AB, Alan Bowman, not Ollie, not some of the defensive linemen, not the linebackers. It was a backup running back and Xavier Benson. Those were the dudes who made this time last year, somewhat manageable, right? A little bit more bearable as the season kind of was able to drag on. Got to tip your cap to Coach Wozniak. And I don't know about you, but I would be devastated if we're having to have the conversation, right, later on, I don't care where in the year, about losing Wozniak or Rattay or Dickey or Duffy or Hammersmith, but usually dudes don't stay at places for 13, 14, 17 years, for one. So they certainly, you can't be asked to stay an extra year if you can get big-time dollar bills and big-time opportunities elsewhere. And another thing that does is kind of extend the coaching tree for Mike Gundy, which is pretty cool. It's also pretty cool for you and I to be the MVP. To be the MVP of anything, you got to get rocking and rolling today with eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your rig and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, LED lighting kits, exhaust, whatever it is, speed, power, style, eBay has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, it's super easy to keep your ride or die rig alive because you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, the part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, the objective is to have you burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you want, the prices you need to turn your rig into the end today. Bring home your next W by keeping your ride or die rig alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Go there now. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. The eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. So as we shift gears here again, we get to circle back around to baseball. As a Cowboy and a legacy comes home. This is something that we'll always give Josh Holliday credit for. And this is something that we all love to see, right? Seeing Mark Ginther over down there in third base line is pretty awesome. Having Justin Seeley here for a long time was great. Having Robin Shura come back, having Matt Holliday want to be a part of this thing. This whole deal that he's got going, it's huge. And now you bring in Trey Cobb. Trey Cobb was, one of the biggest closers in our last big-time runs, I guess you could call them. So Trey Cobb is a closer that knows how to potentially help Rob Walton in this department. And Rob Walton's going to need some help, right? Let's face it. Rob Walton is a genius, okay? He's a tactician. But we've got a lot of new pitchers on staff this season because of some of the ability to lean on some guys last year. It made some dudes that felt like they deserved more innings not get very many innings. So now you bring on Trey Cobb. I think this is going to be huge for Holliday. I think it does also re-accentuate right next to Jordy Mercer, who's also a former Cowboy that made it to the majors to come down and be a part of the coaching staff. What we're building at Oklahoma State is not new, but we're going to need some of these guys, in my opinion, much like football, to kind of take the next level, to have another level of buy-in It's not talent. It's not recruiting. It's not facilities. It's not conference. It's not ability. It's just crunch time. Performing in the crucial moments has been the biggest difficulty for baseball. And I'll say it, right? If Josh Holliday loses another daggone regional, do we not at least have, I'm a big fan of the 1-year deal, okay? The shout out to my regulars and regulators, you guys will recall, okay? But since I am such a big fan of the 1-year deal, I think Josh Holliday should be on a 1-year deal right about now. But the Big 12 title, it buys him another year. Okay, cool. So don't need to mess with that this coming season unless we repeat. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We have another top 10 class. If we utilize everybody, then maybe we win a super. Or maybe we even, at this point in time, let's just get back to hosting the supers. In a year that Cecil Obrate goes out, we didn't give him what he deserved, which was a super regional, which is why he put his money behind the stadium to have it built. Dagnobbit. Don't get me going here at the end of the daggone show. All right. Yeah, it's tomorrow's. I need to save some of this. Tomorrow is the funky, fresh, fired up, feeling good Friday. So we're going to save some of that for tomorrow. I am a little fired up, I'll admit, right? It is... It's sometimes difficult, right, keeping things under wraps for months and trying to drop, little nuggets, but obviously not let stuff out just for this crap to happen. Might change the way we do things a little bit around here. We'll see. Only time will tell. But until that time comes and until the next one, I think it's all we're going to have for this one right here. So, as always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes, and thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. When you're done with this, go check out our buddy Cameron Stewart over at Locked On Baylor to hear about the ridiculousness of Michael Turner Jr. deciding to take his talents to Waco instead of Stillwater. That's a mistake, but you don't need to hear it from me. Go hear it from the Baylor fella. All righty, y'all. I appreciate you. Later, my taters.